welcome to this ET Now special. I am Anisha Jain and my guest today on the show is the man who came at the helm of TCS 14 months ago, but he's managed to stay a bit reclusive when it comes to media. I'm talking about Samir Seksaria, the Chief Financial Officer at TCS. Samir, hi. Thank you so much for doing this and inviting us to your campus.
Thank you. A pleasure to be on your channel and a pleasure to host you here.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all ours. Samir, of course, we have interacted a lot during the quarterly earnings calls, etc. But, since this is your first no-holds-bar interview, let me begin by asking you, how has the journey been over the last 14 months in these unprecedented times?
Absolutely. So I took over into the big shoes. I stepped into the big shoes at the peak of the pandemic, as you said, about 14 months back. And I think three things which helped me the most. One is the backup of my team. I have been having a big team, the breadth and depth of expertise and experience which the team has, and we have grown up together into our respective roles. Second is the benefit of being long into TCS, understanding the nitty-gritties both from a business perspective and finance perspective, and the mentoring I got from the previous three CFOs has helped me sail through. And if you look at the 14 months which went by, we were able to put in a few strategic initiatives in place, get through one of the another buyback in place,
Right.
as well as put in a reorg through. So I think the 14 months have been successful. A long way to go further.
Well, yes, successful indeed it has been, but you're making it sound very rosy and simple. I'm sure that was not the case. It was really hectic with the pandemic, with the reorganization, etc. What would you call your biggest challenge has been so far?
Actually, if I put it frankly, with the team I had in place and the prior expertise with me, I actually don't
Wow.
think of any worthwhile challenges to bring it up.
I'm surprised, Samir, that you're not pointing out the current macroeconomic situation as the key challenge, because in our conversation with corporates, the way we understand it, that 2022 might be a record deal pipeline, but 2023 is where you need to be worried about the spending cuts because they've historically come with a lag. Your sense?
Okay, so one, the reason I didn't call it out as a challenge is it's part and parcel of the game it is, and we see it as an opportunity in itself. Looking at global macro, whether it's political instability, the high inflation rate or situations, put us in a situation where it gives us as an opportunity, because when organizations globally face challenges, they look up to us, either from a cost and optimization perspective, or where they would want to have efficiency in their organization, strengthen their core, or look at technology as a lever to have growth and transformation. So the twin engine strategy which we have in place for growth and transformation for our customers or cost and optimization plays in beautifully well, and I think that will help us continue. The demand drivers which we have been calling out also, whether it is in terms of increased share of offshoring or outsourcing, or in terms of the cloud transformation agendas which our customers have, or their customers' own priorities in itself, I think gives us confidence that the momentum should continue.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you about demand environment, if at all? Are you at like 1 or 2, or you're at least at 4 or 5?
I would be higher. Demand environment is not a problem. Our entire thing has more than been on looking at more from a supply constraint perspective to service the demand which we have.
Okay, so we'll come to the supply chain constraints in just a bit, but let me finish the demand part of it. What about Europe specifically? What are your teams on ground telling you? Because that economy is surely headed for a much harder landing than US, for instance.
So if you look at US, definitely it's been a strong growth driver for us in the recent months. But Europe in itself has also been doing well. We have been having double-digit growth for some time. And also if you look at it from an overall perspective, we do acknowledge there is political instability, there is a war situation which is in place, and while a lot of leaders at the CXO level in our client conversations we see, they have been watchful enough and preparing for multiple scenarios. But when we speak to the CIO teams and the people on the ground, they are not reflecting the same thing. They do continue to invest, and that is globally across, whether it is Europe or US. And I think right now there aren't any cuts or constraints which are being reflected into the technology spend which we are seeing.
Okay, so since you mentioned the double-digit growth, you are giving me my next question. Is that likely to sustain in the medium term as well? Because FY22, we all are fairly confident there will be a double-digit growth. What about FY24, 25?
So we talked about, as we came out of the pandemic itself, we did talk about a multi-cycle or multi-year upcycle. And looking at what I just talked to you about, the demand drivers being in play, I think I am pretty confident the momentum should continue.
Okay, so sounding
That's
fairly...
what I want it to happen.
It to happen, sure. So that's the optimistic in you talking. But let me talk to you about the supply side issues, right? It's something which has been plaguing the industry, whether in terms of attrition or wage inflation, etc. Would you say that the worst is behind us, or will it take a couple more quarters to moderate and say it with conviction that the worst is over?
So let's put it into what has happened. So we have seen the elevated supply side constraints for almost 3 to 4 quarters, and why these supply side constraints happened was a mix of decision making at the beginning when there was a big demand fall, and many participants took a different call in terms of how it would pan out. We did see that there would be a V-shaped recovery, and we invested into the V-shaped recovery. And what we have seen now is a lot of other industry participants are also doing in terms of like we added about 100,000 plus trainees adding at the bottom of the pyramid. Others are also doing it, and what that helps is broaden the actual base of the supply pool which is available. And once that pool becomes into the mainstream, I think definitely the constraints which are there get elevated. Unlike when you are there is a merry-go-round happening across from the same pool which is available.
True.
So that gives us confidence that structurally it should be in place. And also from the data points perspective, we see that attrition levels are flattening up, and we believe that it should give a downtrend in the next couple of months, or at best in the next couple of quarters.
Welcome back. Well, we're in conversation with Samir Seksaria, the CFO at TCS. And Samir, I promised that there's going to be tough questions ahead for you, so let me put a tough one now. We talked about the supply side issues, etc. But how are you being so confident that the margins have bottomed out already? Because it's a double whammy of sorts, right? One, the wage inflation continues to be very close to a decadal high level. And on the other hand, I'm sure pricing negotiations are taking longer to fructify, right? How are you so confident that margins have bottomed out?
So if you look at as we stepped into the quarter, the two headwinds which were there were well known, whether it was in terms of the wage increases, which we do across the board from 1st of April usually, and also to an extent while at an elevated level, the attrition situation was known. And if you look at it, what has panned out at 23.1%, it's a combination of both of these. And our current priority is to focus on capturing the growth, and we have been maintaining industry leading margins, thankfully, for many years, almost a decade, and we know how to deal through these situations. And if you look at our long term cost structures, they are very balanced for us in terms of we are very comfortable with those cost structures. We can comfortably operate in the 26 to 28% band which we have always talked about. 26 to 28% is our guiding beacon, and that gives us the confidence, and the industry leading margins which we have been having is a result of the investments which we have made across, rather than something being different. And with those initiatives in place, I think that gives us the confidence that in the longer term we'll be able to manage it. Shorter term is where we'll have to manage some of the challenges which we have always talked about, and as I had called about in the last interactions also, whether it is in terms of rationalization of pyramid, which is already in place over the last 1 year, or optimization of the utilization levels, or the growth itself being a factor, are the ones which will help us get back to closer to our levels in terms of last year's exit, and then we'll look towards looking at pricing and realization as a lever to get back to our comfort band.
So 26 to 28% in the longer term. Define longer term for me.
Longer term is longer term, something which is not short and medium.
Well, Samir, being a fellow chartered accountant and the fact that we are infamous for our numbers in Excel, I was expecting a number from you. But nonetheless, not putting you in a spot there, but let's talk about the longer term vision.
Learning from you all.
Well, that's not a great habit, but anyways, so let's talk about the longer term vision then. Your chairman, Mr. N. Chandra, called out the $50 billion target that you have by 2030. How are you gearing up for that? What are the levers available to scale up to that level going forward?
So first, if you look at the 50 billion target, if we continue at even the historical growth rates of 7 to 8%, we'll reach there by the turn of the century. The target is not reaching there by 2030. The target is to reach much sooner. And the recent reorganization structure which we have put in place, focusing on the customer journeys which various customers go through, is a step towards that. And we put in the reorg around the February time frame, and we have transitioned very well into the reorg in its or implementing the reorg per se. So we are very happy the way the entire organization has stepped up in terms of transitioning into the new structure, and now we are able to focus on specific segments of customer, whether it's in the early phase of the relationship with us, or they have matured into a significant matured relationship, or in between where we can try out different technology skill sets across in the customer organization.
So, Samir, you're sounding fairly confident, but what could derail this growth momentum? What is there as a top priority for you, or top of the watch list? What are your concerns then?
So, we see a very good demand environment which is there, and we are confident of servicing that demand environment. The current situations in terms of whether it is global macro, which is anybody's guess, or in terms of living up to servicing the demand, whether in terms of the technology skill sets which are required emerging, or in terms of the actual resource pool being available, could be the challenges. And I think we are pretty much well geared up for it in terms of investing into talent and technology pools organically, also in terms of having resource pools which are available to service that demand.
Is currency something that you're worried about, the cross currency headwinds with dollar strengthening the way it has?
So currency has been volatile, and a bit surprising also. The cross currency volatility which we have seen in the past few months has been quite very surprising. But I think we have a robust hedging policy in place, and overall we keep a watch on currency, but we in the long term we look at currency as a support to our, and build it into our business plan in terms of supporting for the various interventions, or offsetting some of the inflationary pressures from a long term perspective.
So not too worried about that. Samir, you have been, you've been a witness to the financial transformation that the company has made right from 1999 when you joined all the way to 2022 now. What's your vision of the financial transformation at TCS for the next 5 to 10 years?
Fair. I've been lucky enough in terms of having
Great mentors.
great mentors is definitely one of them. I have worked across under all the past 3 CFOs personally, and I'd like to pay tribute to Ramki. He was a big sounding board for me. Uh, from a finance transformation journey, we have always focused on 3 specific areas. One is looking at simplification, simplification in terms of processes, bringing in efficiency. Second is in terms of we had looked at fast closure as a concept in itself.
Fast closures of deals?
Fast closure of, actually I am looking at the internal finance transformation which we have had, and if we look at what we have implemented is day one closure, which is we would report on the from the last day of the reporting period, the very next day the numbers would be available across the management. Basically this was in terms of ensuring that we free up bandwidth. Looking forward from a financial transformation perspective, from finance, our focus has been to partner with business, help them enable on their growth and transformation agendas which they have, and we as finance, how do we better support them has been the focus, and towards that we are looking at having high performance teams and being globally benchmarked.
Okay, fair enough. But you know what, Samir, I've always been intrigued. What does a day look like for the CFO of a 12 lakh crore market cap company with 6 lakh engines at work?
Well, it's pretty normal day, I would say, because I've been living that for more than 15 to 20 years. And well, most of
it all work and no play for Samir? Is it largely so?
I would say it's a balance of work, and you get used to balancing both work and overall family time. I try to give as much as family time as possible, but yeah, a lot of usual work days are, pretty much with work.
So then what's your mantra of balancing that time? Because you make it sound easy, and I'm sure there is no button that you can switch on, switch off, right? What are your key hobbies or mantras that you live by?
So one, stepping back on the switch on and switch off, I actually try to do the switch on and switch off. In terms of, to be frank, pandemic helped us in terms of, learning you are 10 meters away from work and home.
True.
And
but that comes with its perils as well, because you're never in a switch off mode, right?
True. Coming to hobbies, actually hobbies do change with time and the time which is available. These days, short breaks on leisure travel is one of my personal hobbies, and then you tag along with the kids. So, what the hobbies the kids are following, so whether it's photography or astronomy, so yes, you tag along with them.
That's a smart decision to follow what the next generation is doing, and I'm guessing that's the theme at TCS always been, right? Get in the next generation, get in the next freshers, that pool of investment that you guys have been doing. To talk to us about that, with respect to your headcount addition targets and the fact that you've added almost 1 lakh freshers in the last 1 year, is this something which is likely to continue? This was a one-off given that demand momentum was exceptionally strong last year.
So, our hiring engine is twofold. One is a long-term hiring engine, and we have called out our targets in terms of what we look at from a trainee addition perspective, and then we scale it up with our NQT, the National Qualifier Test. We have been able to scale it up as the demand is what we see. So, it's both a long-term target which is in place, and then basis demand, we are able to upscale or downscale it as it's required.
Okay, let me kind of end it with a question regarding what the digital journey has been for India. It's almost the eve of our completion of 75th Independence Day. In the last 10 years, we have seen a massive growth, and IT has been one of the very crucial support systems in terms of multiplier for both employment as well as export, etc. Going forward, what role do you see for TCS? Because you guys have been playing a big part, whether it's passport transformation or the GIFT City, etc. What do you see as the role of TCS going forward?
I think having emerged as a global IT player many years or almost 50 years down the line, if we look at TCS has been an early entrant into the overall nation building exercise or focus on India uh, as an opportunity as well as something which we would want to focus on. And we have been having a considerable portion of our revenues from the India market, and we have been servicing both the private sector as well as the public sector. And we have built up and delivered successfully quite a few projects which have been of national importance. A couple of them you did name it, and our focus does continue on similar lines, and we continue to invest into India.
Okay, and lastly, just one word of advice for the people who are starting out in their career. Did you ever envision yourself being the CFO at TCS? Is this something people can aspire to be? What would your guidance will be to those guys?
Absolutely. I think luck, opportunity, and mentors have played a big role in terms of where I got through. And I think my learning into it, no, I never, initial days of my career, I never expected that I'll land up into this big shoes, but glad I am into the shoes. And I think my experience is getting a breadth of expertise in terms of learning various fields, or in my case, getting exposure across various countries or parts of the world is something which is important. Investing into teams, and most importantly, having a business first approach is something which always helps. And I always tell my teams, go beyond what is expected. Go doing the 10 to 15% extra makes a big difference versus achieving just the 100%.
And I think that's exactly the mantra TCS is living by. Samir, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank
Really
you, Anisha.
appreciate you joining us.